Hello everybody, my name is Melvyn Wood and today I'm going to be tying you one of my favourite brown trout flies. It's the Irishman's Mallard Claret variant. The hook in the vise is a Camasan B175 in size 10, although I do tie this fly in 8, 10s and 12s. The thread I'm going to be using is Semperfli's classic wax thread in 12 naught and the colour's black. So I'm just tying on the tying thread about 2mm away from the eye, and I'm coming down the hook shank in relatively touching turns, and I'm coming to a point midway between the barb of the hook and the point. Which is about there, and I'm going to snip it off. Next we need to be putting the tail in, and the tail's made from this stuff, which is golden pheasant tippets dyed hot orange, and we're wanting a nice part of the feather. We don't want this down here that's not very well defined, but some nice black tips from about round here. So I've torn the rubbish out of the way, and I'm going to snip off about half a dozen fibres, and I'm going to moisten them to keep them together. Now the length of the fibre needs to be the length of the body. The length of the tail rather needs to be the length of the body. So I want to be about there. And I'm going to pinch and loop that on. But when I come down, I've only just got enough pressure to hold it. I don't want loads of pressure on as it splays the tail. Just a few thread wraps to hold, then I'm coming in and I'm cutting those fibres off, the waste fibres at an angle. Then I'm coming back down the way in relatively touching turns, trying to keep all that material on the top of the hook shank. And I'm coming down a couple of mil, and the next thing I want to tie in is the rib, or what I'm going to make the rib out of, which is this stuff. That's mirage tinsel. I'm just going to tie that in. I'm coming down the way again. There we go. Now what I need to do is I need to twist this, so I'm popping my hackle pliers onto the tinsel and I'm twisting in a clockwise direction. When I've accomplished that, I'll lay that down. The next thing I'm going to tie in is some dark claret seal's fur. Well, this is a substitute, and it's Semperfli's Semper Seal, and I mixed 2 parts claret to 1 part black, and it's given me this lovely dark claret. And I'm just dubbing that on to my tying thread. And I don't want it too tight because I want to rag out plenty of the Semper Seal into the body hackle. Couple of turns on. And we can come back down the way. It's a nice body. I need a touch more. And any left we can just pull off. Tie down. And snip that bit off. We now need to put in the body hackle, and the body hackle is genetic saddle hackle from a cockbird. Need to bear the end. Tie it down. And then I'm going to put 2 full turns on at the front, and then we're going to come over, come down the hook shank in about 4 or 5 turns. We're going to tie that in with our formed rib. A few turns on there to hold it. We can now snip that off. We can also snip the feather off. Now we need to rag out this Semper Seal into the hackle. Does nothing for the look of the hackle, but it makes the fly much more fishable. Puts a halo around it when the sun hits it, or when the light hits it rather. I'm going to pull back any fibres that are going forward. Some real short ones there I'll need to snip off. And now we need to get the wing in. Now when we put the wing in, we don't want any bumps which will throw the wing up. We want the wing to sit like that. We don't want the wing to sit like that. So any bumps around the head we take out with the tying thread. And we flatten the top there with our fingernail. Now the wing is made from this feather, which is bronze mallard, and I'm taking the fibres from the bottom part of the feather, and I want to take out about 20 mil or so. I'm doing that with my dubbing needle, just splitting that feather, and then pulling it out from the centre stalk, stem. We're pulling it out around about 90 degrees till we get the tips level. And when we get the tips level, you can either pull it off or cut it off. I prefer to cut them off. Just check that now when you've cut it off. Everything's okay. And it is. Now what we need to do is, the top half you need to bend into the middle. The bottom part you need to bend into the middle. So far so good. And then you need to bend it in two again. So we have the wing. The wing goes on top, and we want the wing to just come to about the back of the hook. About there. Now I've started my bobbin spinning anti-clockwise, and what that will do is it will throw a loop over my fingers and my thumbnail. I'm putting two soft loops in, and I'm going to pull down slowly but firmly. Put another two wraps on just to hold it in place. And we've got the wing now sat just about perfect. Now we don't want that wing to move when we're snipping this off, so I'm going to put another 3 tight wraps on top of one another. And then I can lift that and I can snip all this out. I can snip it out in a couple of snips. But now I can take those 3 turns off, and then I can just come in here and tidy up a little bit. The fibre there wants to come away. Okay, next we need to put the front hackle, and the front hackle is made from a hen neck feather, and it's just an Indian. It's nothing fancy. And I'm going to get rid of this fluff from the bottom. It's easier to use the feather. And I'm just coming in with my hackle pliers and nipping the tip and pulling these away. So I'm going to tie this in by the tip, this feather in by the tip. So in it goes. I'm going to pull that back, gives us a little bit more security. I can snip that away. There it goes. grab the hackle with my hackle pliers. Now I'm going to double that hackle by simply pulling it through my fingers like that. And if you want to do, you can always give it a little nip, and that bends them back even more. And then we wind that hackle on. We want at least 3 turns, if not 4. The last turn. Put our thread in, hold it tight, bring that feather stalk round at 90 degrees to it, which opens up all the fibres, and we can put a couple of wraps on just to hold everything in place. And we can get rid of that excess feather. Then put everything back in line and just wrap ourselves a nice little neat head. You can now whip finish. Snip the tying thread off. There's a little bit of fibre of fluff that's left there. Should take out. Give the hook a click. You can now put a little bit of varnish on the head. Make sure the eye is clear. And all that fly wants now is another couple of coats of varnish on the head, and it'll be right to fish. That is your Irishman's Mallard Claret variant. How would I fish this fly? Well, it's a fantastic brown trout fly, and it also takes rainbows. But really you need to be floating line, intermediate line or sink tip line. So it's a fly for when the fish are fairly high in the water. I use it on a middle dropper on a long leader. Usually the leader will be between 18 and 20 feet long, with droppers about 6 foot apart. And just pull them back. I preferably fish them out of a boat, out of a drifting boat, and I would pull them back fairly quickly. Yeah, and that's how I fish them. It's a wonderful fly, one of my favourites, and I highly recommend it to you.